Sarah, hi. I was just saying, oh, is Sarah going to join? And
then... sorry, a few technical issues, but I'm here.
That's good. Oh, there always, aren't there? Just when we think we've got Zoom cracked, there's some technical issues. But so Sarah, when you're ready, I said we were going to just start with a very little bit of simple lying down. So, so settling onto your backs and yeah, just letting yourself arrive. So in these, I suppose, you know, you're in your familiar setting of your home, but in these, I suppose, these strange times, and it's really helpful to come back to some very familiar things. So the first thing would be, once you've let your body settle on the ground, is then to let your head roll to the right and to the left. So just very much sort of that you're easing your head side to side. And noticing how your neck feels, feeling the contact of the back of your head on the floor. If your neck feels at all tight, just go easy with it, but keep on with the movement. And when you're ready to stop, then just settle your head so it's in a comfortable place, the center of the back of your head on the floor. And then if your legs are long, bend your knees and stand your feet on the floor. And take a moment to feel the contact of your footprints on the ground and the back of your pelvis on the ground. And then start to let your knees tilt to the right and to the left. And notice how this feels in your body. And just keep on with this movement. And I think as much as possible with everything we're doing today, there's just that sense of, can we really be with it? Can we really feel it? Can we really enjoy it? What you're going to do, you can keep with a bit of tilt in your knees, but the other thing you can do a bit of alternating with is pausing in the center and tilting your pelvis a little bit up and down. So if you stop tilting your knees and then start to rock your pelvis a little bit, so you're tipping your pelvis towards your head and away from your head. So in one direction, you're letting your lower back arch a little bit away from the floor. And in the other direction, you're flattening out that curve in the back of your waist and you're tipping your tailbone off the floor. So hopefully this is familiar for all of you. And you can also then go back to letting the knees tilt. Just in your own time, a little bit more, either of tilting your pelvis up and down or tilting your knees from side to side. And then in your own time, you're going to fold your knees in towards your chest. And from here, you can take your legs up towards the ceiling and give them a shake out. So it's very nice. So I can see all, yeah. So some people I couldn't see you at all, and now I can see your feet. So just really nice. So give your legs a good shake out. And yes, you can add your arms in, like some of you are doing, if you want to add your arms in. Very nice. And from there, you can then hug your knees in towards you and do a little bit of rocking from side to side, holding around your knees with your arms. And just let everything rock a little bit to the right and to the left. So let your knees move, let your head roll in the same direction as your knees. And feel that you're giving the back of your body a little bit of a massage. And then from here, you're going to roll onto your side Have a few breaths on your side, and then we're going to come and do some movements on hands and knees. Actually, and in fact, what you're going to do first of all is come over into child pose. So I was pleased to hear, Marie, when you said you had your heating on, because
I know, turn the heating up, Cara.
yeah, you see, sometimes you know, I always have the heating up for yoga at home, and sometimes at home you don't have it up so much. So do make turning your heating up. So have a few breaths in child pose and just see how child pose feels today. So feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you, and also feel the points of your body that are in contact with the ground. So it's nice to feel the contact of the forehead on the ground, the elbows, the fronts of the lower legs. And then when you're ready, you're going to come onto hands and knees. So there's no rush, but it might be that you want to start moving. So coming onto hands and knees, settling yourself down into your hands, through the bones of your arms and to your thigh bones. And then we're going to start to do some rounding your back, dipping your spine. And you can also do some tail wagging movements. Yeah. So imagining you have a fish's tail, a dog's tail, and wagging it from side to side. So in your own time, move between some cat movements, rounding your back, dipping your spine, and some tail wagging movements. And just as you're doing these movements, have a look down and look at where you've got your hands and your knees placed on the floor. And that distance between your hands and your knees should be roughly the length of your body. So some of you, I can see that, and some of you I can't. And it doesn't matter whether I can see you or not, but look for yourselves and see. And we're going to be putting a few movements together here. So when you're ready, from the hands and knees, you can either go back into child pose, or you can come on into dog pose, tucking your toes under, rocking your hips up and back into dog. And have a big exhalation or two of dog pose, and just see how dog pose feels today. How do the back of your legs feel? That's probably the first thing. That's the first thing I always think about in dog pose. Can I breathe? Can I start to let go of some of that tension that builds up in us without us even noticing? Very nice. And then really, so we're going to be staying with this little series of movements. So from dog pose, you can come back down to hands and knees. You can come into child pose if you like. You could come back to a bit more cat, or some tail wagging on hands and knees. And you can also come back up into dog pose again. So in your own time, moving through these few different movements, trying to be led. So as I often say in class, this sense of trying to be led by what your body wants now. So rather than thinking, oh, I should do that, just try to feel, what do you really want to do? Yes, and if it's something else that I haven't suggested, that's well. So the other thing I was going to add in, and it may not be what you want to do, but from child pose, it might be that when I was doing this, I wanted to do that kneeling twist. So from child pose, you could be sitting and kneeling, turning one way, turning the other. So this one here. And so this one I really like because you get this lovely movement through the spine.
Your knees apart, Cara.
I've got my, well, no, I'm just sitting in kneeling. So yeah, so it might be better to see it. So yeah, I'm just sitting in kneeling. So whatever's comfortable for you with kneeling. And then when I come out of this, I would probably then come onto hands and knees and lengthen each leg out behind me. So that's quite nice. Oh, were you wondering if we were sitting down in between our heels, Marie?
No. I just, yeah, it wasn't. It was just whether or not they were, because in child you had your knees open, that was all.
Yeah, yes, that's a good point. And then coming back into dog pose, maybe having another lengthen out. If my knees were wider apart in child, I would probably bring them a bit closer together for kneeling. So
yeah, that's what I didn't know, because you went
because I was doing a side view, wasn't I?
Yeah, fine.
That's nice, Sandra. Nice to see you. So
I think it's charged up now, so I can move it.
yes, all of these things we have to deal with. So very nice. So just carry on for another couple of minutes, moving between these selection of movements. So cat, dog, child pose, kneeling twist. And wherever you are, this I suppose these two things, breathing and just trying to feel your body. So wherever you are, this sense of, can you just really feel the body, you know, dive down into those bodily sensations. In a sense, why I suppose yoga is so important to us at the moment, because it gives us that possibility for just really just being, so cliched, isn't it? But that being in the moment, and yeah, not getting too caught up in our thoughts. So you might want to, let's do, wherever you are, maybe do one last dog pose and have a few breaths in child, because then we're going to come up into standing. So it's not, I don't mean one, it's not going to be the last dog pose of the class, but come back into dog pose and just see how it feels. How are the backs of the legs feeling now? Have your knees as bent as you like. You could be rolling through one leg at a time. You could be rolling onto the tips of your toes and then onto the top of your toes. So that's it. Roll all the way onto the tops of the toes of one leg, stretching out the front of the ankle. Hi, Mel. Nice to see you. So Mel, we were just doing some cat and some dog. And then we're going to be coming into standing in a moment. So yes, folding into, so we are going to come into standing in a moment. So have a few breaths in child pose. Rosie, you could come into child pose before you come into standing, I think. Yeah, so just see, how does it feel to settle in child pose now? And Mel, you might just want to do a few moves of whatever you want to do. We did start lying on our backs. Yes, and Siobhan, you child pose, just seeing how does it feel to stop, to rest for a moment, to feel the breath in your body, to feel the ground beneath you. Just to notice, how is it to be? And then in your own time, you're going to make your way up into standing through, I think, through dog pose again, unless you've absolutely had enough dog poses, but that's, I think, we never quite get there. So, yeah, so for this dog pose, really think about how you're placing your hands on the floor, big hand prints. Again, coming into dog pose. And then from dog pose, walking your hands one at a time in towards your feet. So coming into your forward bend, and then just see how it feels to be in your forward bend. If it's better for your lower back, bend your knees a bit more, rest your elbows on your thighs. Have a big exhalation. Then let a breath come in. And as you exhale, sink down into your heels and roll up into standing. So are we all there? Good. So look, we're going to do a few things, quite a few things in standing now, because I think we all need to move and it's good to be able to see you. So hopefully you've got quite a bit of room in your homes to do this swinging twist. That's very nice. Let your feet come along with this. Let your arms slap onto your body. Good. So do this a few more times. And let that go, and then just settle for a moment in standing. Maybe look at your feet for a moment, and then close your eyes. Feel your feet on the floor. So just see for a moment, how does it feel to arrive in standing? This first standing of the class. And then we're going to come on to, we're not going to stay here long, we're going to come on to some more sort of swinging movements. This time I want you to start drawing a big with one arm. So if you've got a problematic shoulder, I'm just going to ask Mary to quieten down in the kitchen. Mary, I'm trying to teach lovely, and people can hear you. Too much shush. Okay. Okay, so can everyone still see me? Because it said the internet connection wasn't good.
You're fine.
Good. So look, as you're doing this one, make sure you let your body come along with you. Yeah. Let the whole of the body help you with movement of the arm. Let the pelvis move. Move if you need to. Where's that noise coming from? Anyone know?
It's me.
All right, Rosie, I'll mute you, love. So, okay, you've muted yourself. All right. Good. So go both. Are we going both directions with the arm?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. No. No? Okay. If you haven't got both directions with your arm, do so.
What one I was doing.
Yeah, also, if you need to go on to the other arm now, so you can go, yeah, you can circle one way. And again, let your body come along with it. Let your feet, you can let the feet come along as well. Go both directions. Good. Okay. So have we evened ourselves up, everyone? We've done both arms in both directions. Okay, and then let's just go into a forward bend where we can be very floppy, and you're going to do this one where you circle your arms around your feet a little bit. So come into a forward bend, see how it feels to be very floppy. Do this weeping willow one where you're trailing your arms around the front of your feet. That's very nice. Good. Okay, and then maybe just let yourself flop in the middle. Big exhalation. Let your head go, let your arms go. And let a breath come in. As you exhale, roll back up into standing. And maybe a little bit of shake out, and then we'll settle back in standing again. Have a little bit of shake. Then have a look at your feet, settle your feet down, hip width apart and parallel. And let's just swinging our arms out to the sides now. And crossing the arms in front of you. So you can alternate that cross if you like. So one arm comes in front and then the other one. And what we're going to do is we are going to swing our arms all the way into our eagle arms. So this one, which you all know. You all know and love. Yes, this one. So when you've done this on one side, we're going to come into a forward bend with this, if that's okay for you. So from here, let the shoulders drop a little bit, and then as you might want to take your feet a bit wider possibly. So I quite like, if I'm doing this as a forward bend, to have the feet a bit wider, and then as you exhale, folding forwards, bending the knees, letting the weight of the arms lengthen your spine forwards. And just this first slide, before you release your arms, just sort of make a mental note of which arm's on top, so you can do the other side. So in your own time, exhale, release the arms down to the ground. Let a breath come in. As the breath leaves you, roll back up into standing. Bring your feet back, hip width apart again. Come back to swinging your arms, hopefully remembering which arm is on top this time. So swinging your arms, just nice and loose and free. And then giving yourself a hug, the other arm on top, coming on into your eagle arms. And then taking the feet a little bit wider apart. So we're going to go back into that forward bend. So take the feet a little bit wider apart. Let a breath come in. Exhaling, folding forwards. Good. And just have several breaths there, if that's okay. So whenever you want to release your arms, you can do. And it's up to you how bent you have your knees. Make it so it feels good in your body. And then, yeah, when you let your arms go, big exhalation, let the arms be floppy. And then breathing in, exhaling down into your heels, rolling back up into standing. Daisy has just come to join us. Daisy. Okay, so back in standing, bring your feet hip width apart. And we're going to do some, hold on a minute. Yes, we're going to do some of these balances where we come up onto the balls of our feet. And I think the last class I was teaching, we were doing these. And we're going to add in, we're going to move with our breath. So as you breathe in, you're going to come up onto the balls and take your arms out to the sides and up. And then as you exhale, bring your arms back down in front of you and bring your heels down. So obviously manage, if you haven't got the space for your arms, you can always take them just up and down in front of you. So breathing in, breathing out. Breathing in, breathing out. I'm going to do that one more time. Breathing in, and just see if you can stay there for a couple of breaths. Let your shoulders drop. And then this time when we come down from the balance, you're going to let yourself go all the way down into a forward bend. Let your head go, let your arms go, let your knees bend as much as you like. Be floppy and heavy. And then let a breath come in as you exhale, sink down into your heels, roll back up into standing. Now this time we're going to do the variation. So some of you have done this with me a couple of weeks ago, where we stay up in the balance for a cycle of breaths. So let's do it together. You're going to breathe in and come up to here. And then you stay up on the balls of your feet. And as you exhale, you bring your arms down. You stay in the balance, and then you breathe in, you bring your arms up again, and then as you exhale, you take your heels and your arms down. So we'll do that one twice more. So breathing in, coming up, and then staying in that balance as you exhale and bring your arms down. Breathing in, and then this time arms and heels. So try that one more time. So breathing in, we come up into the balance. Exhaling, just the arms come down. Breathing in, the arms come back up again. And then this time the arms and the heels come down. And this time go all the way down into a forward bend again. Feel your heels rooted into the ground, but let your body be nice and floppy. Good. And then breathing in your forward bend, and as you exhale down into your heels, roll back up into standing. Now we're going to do one more version of this. So some of you maybe have a little shake out. Some of you did it with me a couple of weeks ago where we did this Hakini mudra. What we're going to do this time is when you're in the balance and your arms are up, you're going to touch your hands in prayer pose and then bring your hands down in front of your chest, all while we're balancing. So slightly different version today. So let's go into the balance on an out breath this time and see how that feels. So let a breath come in here and standing. Just check your feet are hip width apart and parallel. As you exhale, come up here. Let your shoulders drop and then touch your palms together in prayer pose over your head. Let a breath come in, and then as you exhale again, you can bring your hands down in front of you. So your hands come down in front of your heart. And then see, how does it feel here to stay in the balance, breathing, feeling the contact of your palms, letting your shoulders drop. Very nice. Yeah, well done. In the flow of your breath. Very lovely. Okay. And then in your own time, come back down. Have a little bit of a shake out. And then look, we're going to do this. I might just move forward so you can see. No, you can't see my feet then. So I'll do it sideways. We're going to do this little mini balance sequence. So watch for a moment. We're going to do this one. We come back onto the top of the foot. Then we come into a little mini tree. I'll turn back. So we come into a little mini tree. And then we bend the standing knee and we cross the legs over and we bring the hands into prayer. So it's this little sequence. I'll talk you through it. So just again, maybe before we do that sequence, have a look at your feet. Hip width apart and parallel. And then close your eyes. Take a moment to just really feel yourself in standing with 2 feet on the floor. And you can let yourself rock a little bit from side to side, sway. So shift your weight over your right leg and over your left leg. And as you're doing so, just make a decision about which foot you want to stand on first. Yeah, because you can choose. It doesn't matter whether it's your right or your left. Choose the easier one, the one you feel drawn to. So when you're ready, then open your eyes. Start to shift your weight onto the foot you're going to stand on, and then the other toes are going to slide back behind you, and you're going to flip onto the top of those toes. You can see how it feels to straighten your knee a bit more. This is the back knee, the leg that's moved back. That might make your foot a bit crampy, so you might not want to do it. Then slide those toes back in and let the knee turn out a little bit into a mini tree. So your toes could be off the floor completely, or that you could have a few toes on the floor. And then bring your toes back onto the floor so you can bend your standing knee. So we're doing this one where we bend the standing knee, we're crossing the other leg on top, and you're bringing your hands into prayer pose. Now, what you're trying to feel here is that your shoulders are over your hips, that you're not leaning forwards, and you're really dropping your tailbone. And have a couple of breaths. Okay, good. Have a little shake out, and then we'll do side 2. Everyone okay? Good. Okay, so I might do side 2 sideways on, just to see if that is any more helpful. So shifting your weight onto this side, onto the other foot now, and the foot that you were just standing on slides back behind you. And so in this one, we're flipping onto the top of the toes, and then you could see what it's like to straighten your knee, but sometimes I find this makes my foot cramp. So you can see how that is. And then let Your toes slide back in under your pelvis. Turn your knee out to the side into your little mini tree pose. And see how that feels. So your toes could come off the floor completely, or they could stay there. A bit of extra support. Now, bring your toes back onto the floor, because what you're going to do is bend your standing knee, and at this point, try and drop your tailbone, and then cross one leg over the other leg. So it's what we're really trying to feel at this point, that the shoulders are over the hips, and the hips are over the heels. And see how it feels to have a couple of breaths here. Good. And then come out, have a little shake out. We're going to come back to some more balances in a little bit.
Are you meant to tuck your foot behind the other leg as well as just...
I tend not to teach that now, because I think you can do strange things. Yeah, I tend not to teach that now, or do it really. Because I think it just can do all these strange things with the standing knee. So, I mean, I think if it's really easy for you, then why not? You could.
Yeah, it wasn't easy.
I tend not to do it now, just because of that. Do a little bit of this one again. So we're going to be coming back down onto hands and knees in a moment, doing some more hands and knees things, and then we're going to be, yeah, sort of coming back into standing. And we'll see how this gets on. So it's interesting, this class that we're doing, I planned it the morning of the day, but I then realised that afternoon I was ill. And I went back and looked at it yesterday, and I thought, oh no, it's I quite liked it as a class, so I wasn't completely delirious at that point. Okay, so from here, you're going to come to the back of your mat, and you're going to make your way down to the floor through a forward bend and dog pose. So maybe take a moment at the back of your mat, looking at your feet, feeling your feet, closing your eyes, feeling yourself in standing. Have a big exhalation. This feeling of dropping the shoulders, letting the ground take our weight. And when you're ready, you can then roll down into a forward bend. Have a few breaths in your forward bend. And then from your forward bend, you can start to walk your hands forwards into dog pose. And see how dog pose feels. So it's always interesting to see how dog pose feels when we go into it from a forward bend, and also when we've done some things in standing. So enjoying dog pose. And then from dog pose, we're going to be folding into child pose, but I want you to do this variation of child pose. I'm just saying. So talking about knees being wide, we are going to have the knees wider. And you're going to be bringing your arms forwards. So this variation of child pose. Yeah. So the knees are wide. We've got this feeling of our rib cage settling down in between our knees. Knees wide, hands in prayer pose over the head. Now, for lots of you, I can't, yes, lots of you, I can see your pelvis. That's nice. So you still want to feel that your pelvis is heavy and is settling over your heels. There's Otto. That's nice. Otto is lying here panting, Mel. So whatever you did to him, you wore him out very well. So he looks comatose. Good. So in that child pose, notice how this feels. So sometimes in this one, it can feel a bit uncomfortable in the tops of the arms. So if that's the case, you might just want to release your hands onto the floor. What we're really thinking about here is this feeling of starting to lengthen and flatten in the upper back. And we're going to explore this a bit more in some other movements. So just see, how does your upper back feel here? And so it might be, Sarah, for example, that can the elbows creep forwards a bit more on the floor, forwards and in towards each other. So I can't see all of you, but that would be the direction. If that is a possibility, to take the elbows forwards and in.
Okay, that makes it stronger.
Yeah, okay, okay, well, we're going to balance these things. We don't necessarily make it too strong. But look, what we're going to do from here is we're going to come into some of the puppy poses. So what I'm suggesting is in between all of the puppy poses, you come and move your spine the other way by rounding your back in cat, yeah? So you might want to do this after your child pose. Come and really round your back. And then you're going to do the first puppy pose. So Sandra, it must be because you're with us that we're doing it.
It must be.
The first puppy pose is this one. So your arms are, I'll show you here, your arms are sort of parallel on the ground. And remember, in puppy pose, your bottom is up in the air. You're trying to feel your hips are over your knees. So your spine dips down. So we're sort of going a bit further with that feeling of the upper back. Very nice. Of the upper back lengthening and flattening, and even feeling that the spine is moving forwards between the shoulder blades. But yes, the thing is here, you want to make sure that you're not in child pose. Good. So it can feel quite intense. So what you're going to do whenever you want to is you're then going to come back onto hands and knees, round your back in your rounded up cat, and then we'll do the next puppy pose. So I just find I really need to do this sort of opposite movement. So puppy pose number 2 is where you hold your elbows, and then the same thing. And thinking about in these puppy poses, that it's when your face touches the ground, it's your nose probably. Or if it's your forehead on the ground, it's much more that point between the eyebrows that's touching the ground rather than the sort of top of your forehead. So see how that one feels. Good. And again, we're looking for this feeling of lengthening, flattening, moving between the spine, between the shoulder blades. You can come up and alternate with your rounded up cat. And then your final puppy pose is like the child pose we did. So this is probably the strongest puppy pose. It's like the child pose we did. And in this one, I always think about my elbows being quite close together. So if you come into it and it feels too strong, then go back to one of the other puppy poses. Because it may not be, yeah, so interestingly, so Sarah, that one doesn't, I would say that one maybe doesn't work so well for you as some of the other ones. So in terms of getting that nice sort of even dip through the spine. So what might be quite helpful now is you could round your back in child pose, in the rounded up cat, and maybe just revisit the puppy pose that you liked the best. If you hated all of them, then you can just stay with cat. But yes, so and I suppose it's that feeling, yeah, what felt most helpful in your body out of those puppy poses? And yes, I think that one looks nice for you, Sarah. And yeah, that looks nice, Siobhan. Yeah. It's just seeing what looks good. A lot of tail wagging going on from Otter there. And what you're going to do after this final puppy pose is to then see how it feels to come into dog pose, because puppy pose can be really informative for dog pose in terms of that feeling of releasing between the shoulder blades. So when you're ready, come and, yeah, come into dog pose. Think about the hands being nice and planted on the floor. You might want to take your hands a little bit wider than you normally do. That might be a possibility. And just seeing, can you take any sort of a sense of puppy pose into dog pose? In terms of this awareness of how the upper back feels, how the shoulder blades feel, That's very nice. Yes, letting the head go like that, Rosie. That's lovely. Letting the head hang off the end of the spine. And just, yes, how does it feel to be in dog pose? Breathing. How do the backs of the legs feel? And stay in dog pose for as long as you feel you're still releasing tension, rather than starting to hold a pose. And then you can fold into a very quiet child pose. So your intention here is just to settle and rest and breathe. Feel the contact of your forehead on the ground. Sometimes in child pose it can be nice to wiggle the pelvis a little bit from side to side. So I think if the back of, your lower back feels a bit tight, that might be helpful. Just for maybe 2 or 3 more cycles of breath, can you let yourself settle and be in child pose? Feeling your body expand with the inhalation and empty out with the out breath. Empty out and settle. So from child pose, you're going to come up onto hands and knees, and you're going to lengthen each leg out behind you in turn, and stay with this for a couple of breaths, because it's such a simple movement. It's this, I suppose it's like this half plank pose, isn't it? Stay with this for a couple of breaths. And this lovely feeling of the back of the knee opening. And then I think as we're here, we might as well add in a little plank pose. So when you've stretched both legs out, settle your hands down underneath your shoulders, your wrists under your shoulders, and just see how it feels to come into plank pose. Really sending the heels away from you, resting down through the bones of your arms. Trying to feel that long, straight plank length through your body. And just, yeah, how is it to be in plank? Breathing. Settling. And from plank pose, we're going to be moving into lunge. So it might be that you want to go from plank pose into dog pose into lunge, or you could come from plank pose down to hands and knees and then into lunge. Just depending on how energetic you're feeling. So coming into lunge, so you've got one knee forwards. And in lunge, we're really just thinking about this feeling of opening out through the front of the back leg thigh. So it doesn't really matter too much what you're doing with your, well, I would say just be looking down at the floor. So we're not trying to sort of bring our heads up. We're just giving the weight of the pelvis to the floor. Having a few breaths here, looking at that front foot, making sure the front heel is planted, making sure the whole of the front foot is as planted as possible. You can swap sides. You could see maybe how is it to go from your plank back in, no, so from your lunge back into plank, as we do in sun salute. It's not always the easiest move. So lunge to plank, and then you can come from plank into dog again, if you like. Have a breath into dog. Walk your feet in a little bit if it's a bit of a long dog, and then step the other foot forwards into like lunge now. Good. So hopefully, are we on side 2 of lunge, everyone? Yes. Good. So have a few breaths on second side of lunge. Giving the weight of your pelvis down to the ground. Letting the breath come in, letting the breath leave you. And from this second side of lunge, if you want to, you can plant your hands down, you can step back into dog pose and then fold down into child pose again. So if you want to have one more lengthen out in dog. So it's always quite nice to keep coming back to dog pose. Good. That's nice. And then from dog, folding down into child pose.
My ear is bigger. Are you going to push it?
Good. So in your child pose, you're going to reach, so slide your hands forwards on the floor. So your elbows are coming off the ground. So sort of, reach forwards with your arms and then come up onto hands and knees. So you're in this longer hands and knees position. If it feels a bit too long, you can always adjust it. Start this movement of rocking forwards, which would be taking us into face-up dog, but we might not be going all the way just yet. So at the moment, you're just keeping your pelvis fairly neutral, and you're seeing how is it to rock towards face-up dog. And then if you're thinking, okay, my lower back really that needs to lengthen out, like you probably would do, Mel, you're tucking your toes under and you're rounding your back, rocking your hips back over your heels. And then you're traveling forwards, keeping your back rounded, looking at your pelvis. The pelvis keeps coming forwards, then letting the pelvis go, untucking your toes into face-up dog. So maybe do that a few times. Reverse the movement, so round your back, rock your hips back over your heels, look back. And then again, as you exhale, travel forwards, keep watching your pelvis. Keep letting the pelvis come forwards. As your shoulders come over your wrists, then you let the pelvis go. You untuck your toes. You bring your gaze forwards. And then try and reverse that. We'll do that one more time. Reverse the movement round all the way back. Looking back towards your toes. Tuck your toes under at this point. And then one last time on an exhalation, traveling forwards, keeping your back rounded. All the way forwards into your face-up dog, untucking your toes, let the pelvis go. And then from this time, keep your feet flat as you rock back and just rock all the way back into child pose for a breath or two. Let the arms rest. And we'll do one more way into face-up dog in a moment. So again, from child pose, you can slide your hands forwards on the floor a bit. So you then come back onto hands and knees in this longer hands and knees position. Yeah. And then if you want to, you can have an exploration with this tail wagging way into face-up dog. So you could start by wagging your tail side to child pose. And then you could be wagging your tail side to side into face-up dog and see how that one feels. So this real feeling that we're sneaking ourselves into face-up dog. So our pelvis moves side to side, we move forwards, we move back. In this one, I just keep my feet flat on the floor. Just, see how that feels. So I'll have a little look at you. All very nice. Yes. If you need to give your wrists a bit of a rest. What was that, Sarah? Yes.
With that, just because it's new to me, is the pelvis kind of swinging from side to side, or is it kind of more, when you do like a wagging tail, it's more feeling like it's coming from the sacrum? Or maybe that's the same thing.
To be honest, I think you could just play around with it. It's not. Yeah, it's not really. Well, that's an exploration because there's probably different ways you could.
Okay.
I suppose what I'm thinking about when I'm doing it is that the movement or the centre, the movement's really coming from the pelvis. That's what's propelling forwards and back. And I suppose I'm just thinking about the whole pelvis really going from side to side. And that side to side movement is taking you forwards and back. But I do think it's one that you can play around with. Or smaller movements.
Thank you.
And I think, the most important thing with these ones, I think, is to just have that sense of and Yeah. And then we're taking the body somewhere where it's enjoying going rather than it's yeah, not feeling so happy. So look, we're going to actually take some of these movements into standing, just quite briefly in standing. So when you've done enough face up dog, you can then come into down dog, as it's called, and then walk your hands in towards your feet and roll up. Just before the class, I got a glass of water and then Otto came in and drank out of it.
I've just unmuted myself just to say, like, for me with like lower back, the wiggling into it, I just find really, really helpful.
Oh, do you find the wiggling into it helpful?
Yeah, I really like that. And it just sort of
someone else I teach, Adeline, who some of you might know, she's always been very anxious about that face up dog. And that wiggling way suddenly made it completely different for her. So it's almost like your brain doesn't think, oh, I'm going forwards. And I think that then releases a lot of tension.
And if you're glitchy, things are on sort of either side of your back rather than in the middle of your lower back. You can just sort of feel your way. It's just very, it sort of relieves your back at the same time as coming into it. It's very nice.
Yes, exactly, because I find the tail wagging is very relieving for the back this time. So it's taking that same principle. Now, what I thought we would do in standing is, and this is just these movements which can be quite, what do I say, joyful, which is what we need at the moment, is alternating some of these ones. We can have one arm, we can have two arms, and then going down into a forward bend. And you could also carry on going down into your squat. So this is why you might need your book nearby to go under your heels. So I just wanted you to do a little bit of this in your own time. And just see how they feel. I mean, I was doing these, I think, yesterday, and they didn't feel quite so good as today. Maybe I didn't have the heating on so high. So, you know, one arm, two arms, make sure, so I'm standing side on, really make sure that your pelvis is coming forwards. And Mel, for you, and some of you might need to also really bend the knees. Pelvis coming forwards, tailbone dropping. And then alternate, go into a forward bend. Drop down. If your lower back could benefit from it, come down into a squat, use your block under your heels at that point. But just think about these are, what are they? Joyful, spring-like movements. We're opening up through the front of ourselves. And if you're someone who's not, if your neck isn't so happy with this, you can always do these supporting your head. Someone else I teach on a Friday finds that sort of more anxious. So you could have one arm, you know, one hand could support the head. That's always a possibility. Quite nice to lengthen your back of your neck out like that. And just keep coming back forwards and flopping forwards. So yeah, just in your own time. Very nice. Lovely. Yeah. Yes. Good. Good. So I often think if you're taking one arm up and the other hand is on the pelvis, this does give you this really helpful reference point of, is the pelvis moving forwards? So if you want to do any more, just sort of finishing up with these, because then we're going to end up staying in a squat. So if you do need your book to roll up the back of your mat. Ooh. Yes, after those standing back arches, just give yourself a bit of time staying in the squat. Whatever you need. I'm showing you wedges, so yeah, whatever you need under your heels. Let you be able to sit in a squat. So obviously you're not sitting on your book. It's under your heels, not your bottom. So you're letting your pelvis hang. And it could be that some of you might want to, you know, once you're in your squat, put your knees wider and you can let your body fold down in between your knees. And that's nice, can be nice for the lower back. And from our squat, if you want to stay there a bit longer, if it's feeling helpful for your back, by all means stay there. From our squat, we are going to sit down. So it might be at this point, you do sit on your book, because we're going to come and sit in cobbler pose. And it might be that you want to weight back on your hands to start with. So we're going to do a few things now here for the, I suppose, for the hips, around the pelvis and the hip joints. And then we're going to come back up into standing one last time. So yeah, seeing how cobbler pose feels, bringing back on your hands. You can also catch onto your feet. You could do a little bit of so there's this. Hi, whoever that is. Hi. Fiona.
Yeah.
Rocking onto one sit bone and then the other. And then you can do one which is a bit more side bend, where you keep both sit bones on the floor and you're just side. I'm sure there's lots of other variations you can do as well. These are the two I tend to do. And then we're going to come over into pinwheel. So from here, let one knee come on top of the other knee, doesn't matter which side, and then slide that top leg back. So you're sitting in pinwheel. And you can do a little bit of circling here. So these ones we end up doing in every class we do. I tend to do these every time I practice. So I just find them really, I suppose, yeah, they always make me feel better. I enjoy them. They make me feel very settled. So from here, we can do this lovely forward bend in pinwheel where we turn to face the thigh that's going out to the side. We line up our body with that thigh. And then we fold forwards over the thigh. And then I think what we'll do here is we'll have a couple of buzzing breaths because they seem to work quite well online and they also work well in this pose. So you can let your breath come in. And you can do another one to let your breath come in. And then your hands in a little bit. Now, I've done this with most of you, but not all of you. So some here, we can come into pigeon pose by, so this we just folded over. If we slide that knee back a little bit more, and then we roll over and lengthen out the back leg, we can usually quite easily come into pigeon pose. Sandra, have you still got a bad knee? Or am I just...
Pardon?
Have you still got a bad knee?
Yeah, I do a bit.
Which one? Is it the one that's bent at the front now, or?
Yes, the one that's bent at the front, so it's okay at the moment. If it's not, I'll put something under it.
Yeah, well, I would say make sure that you just keep your weight through the top of your thigh, so your pelvis might not go completely level. You just
right.
Okay. Does that make sense? So that you're not.
Yeah,
so you're not taking all the weight into the knee, and that's the same for anyone else. You can be a bit offside in this. And then just see how this is in pigeon. So I quite like tucking my toes under in my back leg and rocking myself a little bit sort of forwards and back along the length of the mat. You could do a bit of rocking of your pelvis side to side. So I think just whatever's comfortable and helps you settle in pigeon. And I mean, you're all experienced here. Otter's so funny, Mel. You're all experienced here. So obviously don't do something that doesn't feel good for you. I mean, the knee is the thing you need to we can just pay attention to in pigeon. Try and make sure your pelvis is level. Rosie, you look like you could take a bit more weight into the top of your thigh. Yeah, I think that's it. That looks a bit more level to me. And Marie, you look like you could take your weight, I can't quite see what's going on, but you look like you need to take your weight more over towards the beige sofa.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, your knee might have gone too far out to the side, maybe. Yes, I think so.
Bit of a painful knee, this one.
Is it? Okay, so you need to then rock your weight all the way onto the side of your pelvis on that side. So I think you need to go the other way. I would say that's it. I would go away from the pelvis. Yeah.
I might just stop actually on this knee.
Oh, hang on. I was getting confused. You're the other way round, aren't you? Yeah, I would just come out maybe.
Yeah.
Now, it's very interesting because I couldn't quite. That was very interesting because I thought your shoulders were your pelvis. So, yeah, I get confused. Now, if you're still okay in pigeon, and Marie, you might want to do this in a different way. If you're still okay, what I would like you to do is come up a little bit, and then you're going to swing your back leg around into cow legs. So Marie, it might be that you want to do your cow legs, but you keep your bottom
I like
leg.
that. Do it like that. That's how I do it with this knee.
Yeah, are you doing that? Have you got your bottom leg straight?
Yeah.
So, is everyone all right there? So from your pigeon, you're swinging your back leg around, and it becomes your top leg in cow legs. Cow legs on the line. I'm just going to stay where you are in your cow legs. Have a little wiggle. Have a little breathe. Good. Are we all right there? So obviously don't stay somewhere if it's not comfortable. So in cow legs, you want to feel that you've got both sit bones on the ground, and if that's really not the case, you might want to sit on your book. And or you can always bring this leg back over the other side. Yeah, so your foot doesn't have to be all the way over, it could be here. And we're going to turn towards the top leg and just see how it feels. Have a few breaths turning towards the top leg. At any point, if you need to come out of your cow legs, just lean back onto your arms, gently ease your legs out. You can come back into the center with cow legs to see how it feels. If you're someone who's really happy with cow legs and doesn't want to come out, you could do a little forward bend. If you're ready to come out, you're going to come here and lengthen your legs out. So some of you I know are rather keen on this one with your legs, sitting with your legs long and wide. Who've we got? Sally, I know is keen. Mel, I know you're keen. You're less keen. So if you're less keen, lean back onto your arms. If you're more keen and you like to fold forwards in this, you can do a little bit. We'll stay here slightly longer after the other side. So this is just really a little taste of how it is. And then from here, we're going to come back into cobbler pose and see how. And then we'll stay here longer. We'll stay here slightly longer after side 2, and then let the other leg, the other knee come over. So we're doing the second side of pinwheel now. I haven't said left and right, so hopefully you can work out which side it is. Is everyone okay? Are we all right? We're not desperately confused about which leg we should have. So this should be, our pigeon leg should now be the back leg of pinwheel. And this knee that we're going to fold over in a moment would have been the back leg of pigeon. So from here, turn, so you're facing the knee that's going out to the side. And holding your weight forwards over that leg. Just having a few breaths settling down. And we'll come back to our buzzing breath again here. So a couple of buzzing breaths when you're settled. So letting the breath come in. Breath come in. And then walking your hands in towards you so you come upright again. And then, so we're just going to think about coming into pigeon pose on this side. So this we just folded over. If you let the side back a bit more out to the side, lean your weight over onto that leg and lengthen out your back leg and just see how it feels to let your pelvis roll around into pigeon. I think coming onto the elbows is a helpful place. It might be that you want to go a bit lower. It might be that you want to go a bit higher, but maybe start on your elbows. Tucking your back toe under, a little bit of rocking here, forwards and back. You can untuck your toe, do a little bit of side to side rocking if you like. Just, yeah, seeing how pigeon feels. And remember to make any adjustments you need to if it doesn't feel good for you. So you can always take your weight more onto the side of the pelvis, so the front leg side of the pelvis, and that is going to take the pressure out of your knee. Exhaling, just that constantly we're trying to give the pelvis down to the ground. So it's up to you now. If you want a bit more time in pigeon, then you're very welcome to stay there. If you're raring to get into cow legs, so you can.
What a choice, Kara.
I know. I always sort of think it's like what you say. It's the between a rock and a hard place, isn't it? Pigeon to cow legs. So you can swinging. So coming to cow legs, we shift the weight onto that front leg. We swing the back leg around. We see how it feels to be in cow legs on this side. So we've always got options. We can always sit on our book. Pelvis, a bit of a wiggle. We can always come to here. We can always lengthen out the bottom leg. So if the bottom knee is feeling problematic, lengthening the bottom leg. Yeah. And then it's that same movement. We're turning towards the top leg. Turning towards that top leg. We're encouraging, we're thinking about the sit bone of the top leg coming down towards the floor more. So you might notice that your bottom leg heel is in the way of that sit bone. And if it is, you might need to shuffle it out to the side of it. Coming back to the center, I think it's, I just find in cow legs, it is really helpful to be able to have a bit of a wiggle. And if that's not possible, it just might be that you need to come out of it. If it's feeling easy, fine chance, and you want to do a little bit of forward bend, you can do. So we've just got a little bit more time in sitting, so you've actually got a bit of a choice. It could be a bit more cow legs. If you like your wide sitting, you could do a bit more of this. You could come back once you've lengthened your legs out. If you don't like wide sitting so much, you could think about doing the cobbler pose forward bend, where your feet are a bit further away from your pelvis. So yeah, just maybe choosing something that is reasonably happy. Just to have, we're not going to be here that long. To have a few breaths in. And so wherever you are, it could be that you choose to just sit upright in cobbler pose and hold onto your ankles or your toes. So wherever you are, just this feeling of, can we let the legs and the pelvis settle down onto the ground? Can we connect with the flow of our breath? And I'd like you, wherever you are, to just maybe have 2 or 3 more cycles of breath where you're focusing in on breathing. And with each exhalation, there's the opportunity to give the weight of the legs and the pelvis more heavily to the ground. You can always change the sitting position at any point, that's fine. the in-breath, feeling of expanding. Maybe the spine straightens up a little bit, comes out. And from here, what I want us to do now is we're going to very quietly go back into standing, and we're going to do a couple of balances, and just in a sort of very, I suppose, quiet, meditative way. So if you felt that you might just want to come up into standing and settle in standing, you might want to go through dog pose and forward bend. I'm going to leave that up to you. But just thinking about now that we're coming into standing, but in a very quiet way. Take your time, there's no rush. When you arrive in standing, so particularly if you come through dog pose and a forward bend, then come towards the middle of your mat. So you've got a feeling of space. And have a look at your feet. Your feet here parallel. And close your eyes and feel your feet on the ground. You can do a little bit of swaying. You can let your weight rock to the right, to the left, let your arms hang. Okay, and then the first thing we're going to do is we're going to come into tree pose. And so just again, think about for you, what would be a quiet tree pose? And also in choosing which leg you're going to stand on. So it's really up to you. I had one suggestion, but only do this if, I mean, it can be quite quietening, would be when you've come into your tree pose, and you've taken your arms up, you can try taking your arms into cow arms. It doesn't matter if you catch your hands or not. It's quite nice just with your hands on your back. But only do this if it helps you feel sort of quiet and steady. If it's just too busy, then keep your tree pose more simple. So coming on to your first side of tree pose, wherever you're going to bring your leg. Use the wall if you need to. So you can have your foot on your ankle, whatever is good for you. And that's just that settling, hands in prayer pose at the heart. And how does tree pose feel today? And it might be that you just need to stay here to be quiet and steady. It might be that you want to feel expansive and tall. And from taking the arms up, if you then think, okay, I'd quite like to try the cow arms here, you could do.
In cow arms, which arm is it the same arm as
I don't think it matters too much. I've got my top arm being the same as my standing leg. But I mean, again, you could do either, I think you could do either side. Yeah. And it's quite nice, I think, if you can catch your fingers, to catch your fingers, but then also to let go of your fingers and just have your hands on your back. Yeah. Feel, yeah, just to feel your back beneath your hands. And then it might be that we come back into prayer pose. Might be that's quite a long tree pose that we need to come down. Have a little bit of shake out. Yourself settle, and again think about what you're going to do on the second side. Again, keeping it quiet, but also if you feel that there's this yearning, which we may well have at the moment, yearning to be sort of expansive, then yeah, with that. Arms can grow up. And that's just sense of, yeah, growing outward. And If you want to try the arms in cow arms, you can do. Just make sure it's still staying quiet. You're not getting into a battle with yourself. If you fall out, it doesn't matter. You can come back in to it. Just finishing with that settling hands and breath. And a little bit of a shake out. Right, we're going to do, I'm just trying to see where there was noise coming from, but I can't work it out. We're going to do one more balance, which is, well, not one we do so often. We have actually done this, part of it earlier on, which is the one where we're bending, where we're bending our knee, crossing our leg. And I just thought this time, if you wanted to, you could do it adding your eagle arms in. So Sarah, it's a very good point this time. It is the opposite arm on top to leg. So I've got my left leg on top of my right, so I've got my right arm on top of my left. And I want to have my shoulders over my hips rather than lean forwards. Which you can do, but it's just it's a different sort of focus. So yes, if you feel like trying your lovely eagle balance, and yes, I know some people like to do the arms and then the legs, and that's absolutely fine. And it's interesting here because we probably can't stay in this balance so long because we're standing on a bent knee and it's much more muscular. So I think it's one, yeah, certainly for me, it's one that I need to do a little bit of, come down, have a shake out, and then try the other side. But there's also something quite, so again, we're starting with the bent knee. It could be that you add your arms in to start with. And then crossing the legs. There's also something I think quite satisfying about this pose because we're really gathering into the center of ourselves. See how that feels on the side too. Yes, and then when you come down, just a bit of shaking or a little bit of shake out arms and legs. Maybe do this one because we're going to settle in standing just before we lie down or sit for a little bit of breathing. So turn my heating off because it is boiling here. I hope it's warm in your houses. No, I've got heating off now. I've got the combination of the sun coming in here and the heating on. Oh,
Sorry, Kara, that's our phone. Somebody's going to get it.
Okay, no problem. So settle down. So last time we're going to settle down in standing. So your feet, and then we'll be closing the eyes. It can be quite nice and standing to have one hand on the belly, one hand on the chest, just to help us connect with our breathing and to maybe be more in touch with ourselves. So closing your eyes.
Okay, yeah, I'll do that, yeah.
Feeling the movement, feeling yourself in standing. And so this is a sense of the whole of yourself right now. So the footprints on the floor, the contact of your hands on the front of your body, perhaps the movement of your breath in your body. You might then like to let your arms just hang. Drop your arms, let them hang by your sides. So you feel the shoulders drop, the arms hang. See if you can sense inwards to this awareness of the skeleton, the support of our bones, so the muscles can soften and relax a little bit more. Feel the breath come in, feel the breath leave you. Do sway a bit if you like. So we've got about 5 minutes for either lying down relaxation or sitting and breathing. So I think whichever you prefer. I mean, I think if you can lie down at home, sometimes I think it's a bit harder. If you can lie down at home, it might be good because you might not get another chance. If you'd like to sit and breathe, that's also really nice. And we will finish at the end, we will finish with all sitting and chanting Om 3 times. So yeah, if you did, yes, yeah, either lying or sitting. And I might at this, I'm just wondering whether to, yeah, if anyone gets, if it gets noisy, I'll mute people. I've got a couple of people muted. So we're just taking this moment or these few moments now to let the body settle and rest, either in sitting or lying. So if you're lying, let your head roll a little bit to the right and a little bit to the left. And if you're sitting, just feel your head resting on the top of your spine. You could do some very tiny little movements of turning your head a teeny little bit to the right and to the left, and then nodding your head a little bit on top of your spine. So little micro movements, as small as possible. And whether you're lying or sitting, letting your shoulders rest. So in sitting, letting the shoulders drop down. In lying, letting the shoulders rest back onto the floor. And then the pelvis. So again, whether in sitting or lying, we're giving the weight of the large bones of the pelvis to the ground. Allowing the pelvis to feel heavy and wide and settled. And then also the large, long bones of the thighs and the lower legs. We're giving their weight to the ground in lying and in sitting. I was talking in classes before I was ill about these 2 friends we have, the ground and the breath. And this sense that we have these supports, one internal, one external, with us all the time. So gathering your attention into your breathing. So noticing where in your body you feel the movement of your breath. And for a few cycles of breath, letting your attention settle with the movements of the breath in your body. So we can feel the out breath leaving us and the inhalation coming in. But we can also notice those quiet moments between the in and the out breath and the out and the in breath. So just see if you can feel, observe, be with one more cycle of breath where you're feeling your inhalation, the pause at the end of your inhalation, the out breath, and the pause at the end of your exhalation. And then let your attention expand outward. So you have a sense of your skin, maybe feeling the air on your skin. Sense of the ground beneath you. Maybe sounds around you. Perhaps for some of you, the warmth of the sun. So in a moment, I'm going to ring the singing bowl. And if you're sitting, you might like to fold forwards or lengthen your legs out. And if you're lying, you're going to slowly make your way over into sitting so we can chant Om 3 times together. No rush. So I thought it would be nice, I was thinking with all the classes, that we finished chanting Om, because Om is, as you know, this sacred sound that's signifies the interconnectedness of everything, which obviously is, you know, so important, particularly now. So you can bring your hands to your heart. So the sense that we are all connected, even though we're apart, connected by technology at the moment only. So letting a breath come in. Thank you, everyone. Thank you very much. And I just realised I had a couple of people muted, which I should have muted for the O's. Remember that. I'm just going to stop recording. Yes.